This video is brought to you by New, a technology company building energy solutions that enable a faster transition to an electric future.
Hello and welcome to another Out of Spec Reviews video. You joined me at the Petersen Museum here in Los Angeles, and behind me is a Tesla Semi. And if you think this is absolutely crazy, which it is, and it is one of the coolest things that we're able to see here, there's actually a ton of electric cars on display inside the Petersen. Not only are there electric cars, there are pre-war cars, post-war cars, supercars, and it's just a really cool automotive museum. If you happen to be in the Los Angeles area, you have a few hours to kill, maybe a whole day, this is the place to do it. Both Porsche and Tesla have actually stepped up to the plate and sponsored some exhibits in here. The Tesla one is truly insane. They also have something called the Vault, which is sort of a secret underground car storage collection that's not necessarily on a museum display, but we're able to go into their storage area. And this is totally open to anyone. You can just come up, pay some money, enjoy the Petersen. I'm going to take you on a tour of all of the interesting electric cars in this video that are inside here. So let's first start with the Tesla Semi. We'll then run inside and you'll see a bunch of crazy things. The video will kind of be broken up because it's just a public day here at the Petersen. We want to just kind of finagle our way through, but let's start with this. This is a Tesla Semi. I believe this was one of the earliest prototypes, one of their alpha builds. And so drivetrain selection, this is back when they had the Model 3 motors in here before they went with the Model S Plaid main drive unit. And just a really cool rig, no question. You can actually see some of the charging port stuff. If we just squeeze right through here, you can see some of the high voltage cables if you just peek in this way. What's interesting, what the Semi is doing is they're using a single wide wheel, mostly for efficiency, which means just one tire rather than running dualies on each axle. And we were just visiting the ACT conference, took you on a full tour of that in a previous video. And that was, I don't think I saw anyone doing single wheel, single tire semis. We do see them out on the road sometimes, but I think it's a cost decision. Not totally sure. Either way, this thing is huge, it's tall, it's epic, it's unlike anything else. You can see the door handle straight off of a Model 3 over here, although I believe it would open the opposite direction that a normal Model 3 would because it's front open. So that's kind of cool to see. If you take a look at these mirrors on the side, looking very interesting, of course. Some level 2 driver assistance stuff as well we're looking at. Of course, the Tesla Semi just started and entered a series production. Of course, Pepsi has some of the first units out there. I was just driving on I-80 in Nevada, right by Sparks, where these things are actually going through, you know, final testing before delivery, and saw a few just driving down the road. And I just love that because Tesla has, you know, sort of stepped up to the plate, sponsored some stuff here at the Petersen Museum, that they parked this. So there's just crazy Tesla stuff. The first Roadster ever, early Model S's are here. And you can definitely tell they were using non-automotive grade plastics on this one. Front headlights already yellowing over here. Definitely, you know, some fit and finish things, but love to see that it's on display. There's more to show you. So let's run inside, and we got a lot to cover. Okay, running inside. We got to pull on this door. There we go. And we are greeted, of course, with a ton of Porsches right off the bat. Things like, you know, Safari builds over here on the left, which is just absolutely amazing. We have an old 962 here. We have a newer sort of, I would say, almost homage to that, the 963 right here. This is a static vehicle, not able to be driven, but just a cool, you know, remembrance piece to the earlier racing vehicles. They even have some vehicles on display over here for kids that you can actually purchase. They have like a Power Wheels Unimog over there in the distance, which is kind of hilarious. But just to give you an impression of how the museum is laid out so you can see what's going on, downstairs is the vault, and that's actually where we're going to be starting some really special cars down there. Actually, I believe Saddam Hussein's Mercedes 600 limo is down there, which is crazy. I mean, crazy stuff. The Tesla display is just in here, so we're going to get to that. And then as we go upstairs, we'll see like Pininfarina Battista and Rimac Nevera and just crazy things, of course. So we can't really show you the entrance, but let's go down into the vault. We'll meet you downstairs in the basement, see some cool cars. Well, now you join me underneath inside of the vault and just starting off pre-war stuff, absolutely crazy. Again, this is a moving collection. There's probably roughly half or 60% of the cars in the Petersen collection are down here at the moment. And I would love to make a video on all of this stuff. It would be a 5-hour long video. So in this video, of course, I promised you fully electric stuff. My all-time dream car, of course, right up front. Love to see it, a nice gull wing. But let's jump over to where they have some really cool things on the other side that you guys will be interested in. But we'll just take a quick peruse through and run through each of these. I mean, just fascinating, absolutely epic cars left and right. It is just an insane line. Actually, there is an electric car just over here, which I think you guys will be interested in. And man, this is just crazy. You know, modern stuff to a Monza to, you know, really everything. But take a look at this. I told you I'd show you a Pininfarina Battista, and well, here you go. This one's actually a non-functional model, I think. This one seems to be like their prototype design. Actually, yeah, so look, you can see here, design model, 1900 horsepower. They're planning to make 150. I believe the first production cars just started, but absolutely epic. Shares the underpinnings with, of course, the Rimac Nevera. We're talking $2 million, 1.5 starting, something like that, somewhere around there. I don't know exact pricing, but big money, of course. You have an XJ220, which is just another one of my all-time dream cars, parked next to a Gen 1 Viper and a Ford GT. It's just amazing things all around. You have some, oh my gosh, just some crazy, crazy cars all around. Oh man. You even have this, which I believe this is technically, what's it called? The Cube? I can't remember the name of it. Do you remember, Alyssa? We were talking to some of the guys about this when we were here not too long ago, but parked next to a Koenigsegg, of course. You have this, which is actually, I believe, electric, if I remember correctly. But let's keep running through. There's just more things. And like even crazy things. Like honestly, I have no idea what this is, but it's a 3-wheeled vehicle, right? Headlights coming out the side. Look at this thing. Absolutely crazy. We have the first production Honda ever to come into the US, that white one right there. I believe that it was like a barn find situation. That was the first one ever imported. Wow. Let's run around because they keep some of their really cool electric stuff over to the left. Yes, look, here it is actually. We're just over here. This is, I know, not electric. Very cool though. This is Saddam Hussein's grocer. I mean, this thing means business. And it's like kind of beat up too, dents everywhere. What's really interesting about this particular car, and I don't want to spend too much time on it because of course he was an awful guy, is no bulletproofing here. The dude was like so feared. Bulletproofing existed back when this car was a thing. And I guess he was so feared, and he has all these platforms on the side, so you'd have like security personnel standing along the side that like, you just don't shoot them, I guess. I don't know. Seems pretty crazy to me. Let's continue up. Pope mobiles, some Asian dignitary vehicles. This one might actually be a Russian vehicle here. This is crazy. And movie cars, like, I mean, we really should make a video of the whole thing. But this is the XKR from the James Bond movie where they started everything on the ice rink. One of my favorite all-time opening scenes ever. You can hear the supercharger whine of that 4.2-liter V8 running, just absolutely epic. I told Alyssa I wouldn't use the word epic in this video because I've been saying it a lot. There we go. So onwards, let's go over here because there's some cool stuff. We're going to get to this Model S that's just over here on the right. Air suspension deflated. Actually, just up ahead too, I can see a Solo electric. Electromechanica Solo, of course, seemingly going out of business. Not sure what's going on. The story was good. They promised Arizona production. They were building the facility there. And now I believe they're buying all the vehicles back, which is pretty crazy to see. So this may be a no longer situation. Not totally sure. This, I believe, is number 7, this Roadster, if I remember correctly. Yes. Quadruple 07 Tesla Roadster right here. This is also a Saunders motorcycle. I believe this one has a 4 kilowatt-hour battery pack in it. But this is crazy cool. If you think that number 7 Roadster is crazy cool, You know, one thing that I really hope they're doing is charging the batteries and leaving them somewhere around the middle, because if you don't charge Roadsters, they discharge in brick, and then you got to send them to the refurbishing company to, you know, sort of string charge them to try and save the battery. So I really hope they're being cared for. I would think so, because Tesla is displaying them, but the level of detail and attention, even in their garage, is just amazing. You can see the center caps are all facing the correct direction. They go through and make sure that that's there, and that's how you know you have yourself a really good manager of the collection. This is an AC propulsion T0, and it really actually is the beginnings of Tesla. It's crazy. They actually have batteries that are in the doors. You can take a look here, which is pretty amazing. They also had an option for a range extended trailer. It was sort of pitched as a sports car. They built 3 of them. This is one of them. The second one is upstairs, which is crazy. The third one burned down in a fire in Arizona, as far as I'm aware. So the remaining T0s of the world are in this building, which is crazy to think about. And again, it really was so progressive at the time. It was the first like viable car. It had range, it had speed, 120 mile an hour top speed on this thing roughly. And it's what led inspiration for that vehicle right there, which then of course led inspiration for, if you join me around this way, by the way, look at this Nissan crazy little things over there. Bugatti EB12, oh, we can't film over that way too much? Okay, well, let's not focus on it then. So the Roadster, of course, some cool racing vehicles here, just insane. Led inspiration for this, which is the Model S. And I believe this one, it's actually plugged in right now with a charger that's dead. This one's number 8, yes. Model S number 8. And you can see, we can't really walk in between the cars, at least we shouldn't, but it's plugged into a mobile connector that's blinking red. So I think this car might be dead, or at least the mobile connector is dead. I'm not sure what's going on, but I'd love to offer some help if we could. This is a solar powered vehicle of some kind, maybe for like a solar challenge, you would think. This blue car to the right is a US electric car. So I'm not actually fully sure of the story on this thing. I have heard of it, I have seen it. If some of you know what the deal was with this thing, comment below, because this is old school, early days electrification, which is just so cool. But I'm not super familiar with this particular car or offering. Of course, the original Fisker Karma. This is more of a range extended EV. Had a GM Ecotech engine powering a battery pack, as well as a plug-in option, solar roof. And these were really a fire risk. Or maybe they just have the impression of a fire risk because they got emerged. I guess the port of New Jersey had a flood. These all got flooded. The batteries all burned a couple days later. I'm not sure if that's if that is what caused it. It's just a random Plymouth, like Dodge Neon thing here. Don't know what's going on with this. I don't believe it is electric. Maybe a crash testing vehicle of some kind. This, of course, you'll all know as the GM EV1. If you've seen the movie Who Killed the Electric Car, or I think that's what it was called, that's basically this. They've removed the batteries out of all of them, is my understanding. GM, of course, this was a lease-only vehicle when it came out, and they bought them all back. Well, they forced them all to come back off lease. They wouldn't let anyone buy them or keep them, but they removed the drivetrain components out of a few and then left them for museums. This one is number 99 that is here, which is very cool. And just a great opportunity to find these and see these. And I don't believe there's any left with drivetrains. Maybe a handful that slipped through somehow, but this is one of them. Uses the paddle charging standard. Rather, this before J1772 was a thing. I think it was called J1773. Could be wrong on that, but inductive charging basically through a paddle, which was neat. This vehicle also, I believe, used a paddle charger. This is the Ranger Electric from Ford. And it was really the small electric truck before it was the thing. You can see the electric flap right here. I'm not going to touch it or open it because we don't have permission to really touch the cars. Perhaps if Petersen wants us to, we could always come back and drive some of these, which would be really cool. And yeah, you can see some signs here on the side. It says Ranger Electric. That's the factory badge. Some stuff there on the side as well. So very, very neat to find all of these sort of specialty electric vehicles, first of Model S's, things like that. We also have a Cake bike over here. No way, check that out. Didn't think we'd see one of those here. Cake is a newer brand of motorcycle, or it's like fast dirt bike mixed getting into the motorcycle game depending on the model. And a Swedish company does a lot of photo shoots with Polestar. Cake and Polestar have a very similar vibe to them. I believe they use Öhlins suspension on this, similar to like what the Polestars do. So that's a good find, Alyssa. Nice work there. Trying to think if there's any other electric bikes here. I'm not seeing anything. Everything looks combustion. Really racy stuff here. Some R1s in a line, which is neat. But I think that's it for like the specialty electric cars down here. I'm going to take some time and really soak in some more vehicles. If there's anything more I'd like to show you, I'd let you know. But I'm going to enjoy some of the combustion stuff before we go up and I show you the full crazy Tesla exhibit, because it's truly amazing. And now you join me in the Tesla section of the Petersen Museum. I mean, just an absolutely amazing display that I'm about to take you on a tour on here. Before I show you the rest of it, I just want to tell you this whole display was sponsored by Tesla, and I think they did a really nice job showcasing past, present, and future of their company, but then they also talk about some of the history of electric vehicles. For example, 40% of vehicles on the road at the turn of the 20th century were full battery electric, which is a really interesting situation that there were so many battery EVs. They even have one of my favorite electric cars of all time here on display, the little city car right here. Love to see that. The cheese wedge, if you will. They have EV1 over here. They even have a plaque complimenting Toyota. Of course, there was a partnership early days with Tesla and Toyota. This is talking about the Prius doing a lot for public's perception of alternative fuels. And then, of course, this brings you to 2008, where they have the Roadster. And actually, I believe Roadster #1 is in here, which is cool. So you have a vehicle from the early 1900s, 1908. It's labeled right over here. This is the Columbia Victoria Phaeton. Production stopped just shortly after this was made because Model T was coming in, and Model T really just squashed a lot of electrification plans because it was so reasonably priced. And yeah, but this is all about Tesla, not about Model Ts. Look at this. The original Tesla Model S prototype. Just an absolutely amazing looking car, even back then. There's so many stories about this prototype that I've heard from along the road around the years, of course, that have popped up, and things like it was a Roadster powered vehicle from underneath, and man, it still looks good, even in this red color. If we take a look at the front just over here, you know, a lot of design cues to Model S, but from this prototype to when Model S launched in 2012, a lot changed. Full electrical architecture changed, motors, battery, everything was brand new underneath, of course, from when this car started. So a lot happened there. I'm not really sure the best way to take you on a tour here, but I guess since we're talking early days, we can talk T0, which is pretty amazing, and even one of the original prototypes for the Tesla Roadster. We, of course, left off downstairs on the T0, which, you know, like I mentioned, there were 3 ever built, 1 burned down. Here's the other, and this one actually has the range extending trailer on it, which is really cool. So I don't even know how much power the little thing can do, but there's just a little cable, little high voltage line running from the genset back here into the battery pack on the T0, which is a really, really cool thing to see. This, of course, you know, without the T0, Tesla honestly wouldn't have been a thing. A lot of the early guys from this era, that's what started production or started work on the Roadster, which we can tell that story just over here. So this is the Lotus Elise, and it is a, it looks honestly like a basic Lotus Elise until you come back here and you'll see a electric motor and battery pack, very similar in shape to the original Roadster. And so during the prototype development phase, no one knew the Roadster was coming because this looks like a regular Lotus Elise driving around. Very cool. This, I believe, was an aerodynamic model for wind tunnel testing and some other things. Yes, the aerodynamic buck, 2005, this one. Wow, very cool to see this. You know, this is where they did a lot of aero shaping on the thing, putting it in wind tunnels, really making sure the size was correct. Can't believe they still have this around. This is just epic. And oh, there I go again with the epic word. But speaking of epic, this one's worthy. Roadster #1, VIN #1. Take a look at this, 00001. Just so cool to see. Came on Advent, almost semi-slick tires at the time. Really cool. You know, I've actually had a chance to drive Roadsters and make videos with them. It's a vehicle that's shot up in value recently. Actually, 3 of these were just uncovered, brand new in shipping containers, I believe in China, unsold, that there's a bidding war going on right now. So I know Gruber Motor Company's involved with that, brokering that deal of some kind. They're going to go there for restoration before they're sold. We're sure the batteries are all bricked. That'll be kind of interesting. Let's take a look actually as to what's going on right here. This is really cool. This is a battery pack for a smart electric drive, which we, of course, had one. This was the original generation of the smart electric drive. Actually, this is really a Gen 2 version, but around, I don't know, 17 kilowatt hours. What does it say? It says 16.6 kilowatt hours. Look, good memory. And yeah, power of 30 kilowatts. They now output about 60 or 65 kilowatts, depending on trim. This was all done by Tesla. A lot of these, engineering projects early on really helped bring them through. Of course, RAV4 electric. This is the Gen 2 RAV4 electric. We actually just saw one on the road today. I was just posting on Twitter about that car. Basically a Model S drivetrain, front wheel drive, still working. Very cool. And take a look at this. This is a Model S in signature red. The VIN is pretty high on this thing, but it's parked in front of a dual motor underside right there. So you can see this is where they got into the all-wheel drive. So I wonder if this was... No, this I believe is a rear-wheel drive car. I don't believe there were any Model S signatures that were dual motor back then. But this is a really nice color. Sig red with the original cream seats perforated. Take a look in the windows here. You'll see in here. Just a really cool car. I'm not sure the significance of this car in particular, but Tesla usually, at least with Model S and X, the first car started with the Signature series, which, those were the early reservation holders getting into the cars. Special paint color, special badging, special software actually with some signature badges. This right here is the aerodynamic display of a Model S, where you have the high pressure areas, again, just behind the windshield wipers over there. You can see the whole thing from an aero perspective. Really, really cool. Now, Tesla, of course, I know I'm not going to do this display nearly as much justice as I should, because I could spend all day talking about Tesla. They're not just a car company, and we're going to get into some more products. They have a line of prototypes down the side here. But they're also an energy company, a battery company from a hardware battery cell manufacturing standpoint, and also a charging and electric vehicle supply equipment company. So we, of course, talk a ton about charging electric vehicles, and right here are 2 of Tesla's main products. You have the version 3 supercharger dispenser right here, liquid cooled cable, really nice. So 680 amps through that little tiny cable, their own proprietary North American charging standard handle, just the best in the business. Nothing can match what this thing can do right here from a reliability standpoint, and just from the workhorse nature of a supercharger. It's just unbelievable. And then of course you have their Gen 3 wall connector. The Gen 1s of course had the faceplate that was metal on there. Then they went to Gen 2, which had the plastic faceplate. Both of those could actually do 80 amp output, which is the maximum of J1772 standard. These can only do 48 amps, but you can link them together, load share them. It's really great. And then you have a Powerwall version 2. We've made videos with one. Actually, my friend Drew, I gave him mine, and looking forward to seeing him install that and what that process looks like and goes through. You also have some of their solar roof products. So from a round trip energy standpoint, with Tesla, you can generate your own energy, you can store it, and then you can dispense it into your vehicle, which they've produced. I mean, it's really the full round trip nature. And on this wall over here, you actually get a whole bunch of 4680 form factor cells. So these are the jelly rolls opened up, so you can actually see what's inside of the NCM chemistry here. So you can see the graphene on the outside, some copper as well. It's really cool. And then these are the actual cells themselves with the cooling plates down the middle. Really absolutely awesome, isn't it? This is the underside of, or I should say the top side of a Model Y battery pack. This is a structural pack. This is where you mount your interior components to it as well. And so you can see just a couple connections. This basically goes on the battery, locks in, seals, and then you bolt your seats right to the battery. It's just next level engineering. I mean, they've really rocked the entire car industry with the structural engineering. We'll show you some of the GigaPress stuff over here as well. But just seeing the 4680 form factor cells, they haven't done a lot with them. You know, production's been slow to ramp up. My mom actually just ordered a 4680 Model Y, so I'm really looking forward to seeing that. I think before I show you the rest of the structural pack stuff, let's run through some cool cars that they have here on display. This is the Tesla Model S Plaid that was at the Nürburgring that actually set lap records and were doing things. I believe, I can't remember, they had two there. They had a blue one and a red one. This is before, of course, they put the Plaid badge on the back, the physical Plaid badge. They just have the text back here. And I can't remember if this was the car that broke down or there was a blue one as well, but that was, you know, the big debacle on the Nürburgring. One of them broke down, but this is pretty epic. We were actually in Nürburgring, the city, at the time when Tesla was running this car around to set some records, and saw them charging it. They had a big diesel generator charging these things. People in the town were pissed because it made so much noise. It was really funny. That's before, of course, Tesla had superchargers at the Nürburgring. And if you take a look inside, you'll see racing bucket seats in there. It's fully kitted, which is just absolutely awesome. Tesla just recently announced the track pack for Model S, which consists of Supercar 3R tires from Goodyear. Actually, a friend of mine was a lead engineer on that tire, and it's really, really cool. I should go to do some videos with him at Goodyear about it. I've actually made some videos with him at Goodyear, which was really cool. This one's on PS4Ss, so I'm not sure if this is actually the Nürburgring car or if it's just a red Tesla, but I think it was. It's got, you know, emergency disconnect for electricity, some other things to do some lap record work. But I'd be surprised if they actually did that on 4Ss. I know they did set a record in a production spec vehicle, and then they had one that was fully kitted with carbon ceramics and some other stuff. So I'm not sure which one this is, but this is definitely looks to be a stock car. This was the car that I would say changed the trajectory of Tesla for everything that we know. This was the original Model 3 prototype. All the way back in 2016, this car was shown on a presentation. It led to hundreds of thousands of pre-orders and ultimately changed the direction of the company going forward. It's that really nice, super high quality silver color with the white interior. This color never actually made it to production. They had more of a production grade silver. But my dad used to have a Model 3 Performance, same spec, 20-inch silver wheels here, the factory silver paint, and the white seats. I think it's the best spec in Model 3. Wish I could go for it. And that's so neat. You can see it's pre-autopilot 2.0. Actually, this one doesn't have any cameras on it, even for autopilot 1.0 suite at the time, but so neat. This 2012 Model X prototype, funny to think this came out the same year Model S was launched. They already had planned for Model X early on in the development cycle. We know, of course, a lot of things changed from this came out. This was digital mirrors. We still don't have digital mirror approval in America, sadly. I wish we could, but you know, like body lines actually fit on this one, which is not production representative of early Model X. And they had, of course, the adaptive spoiler in the first few thousand cars, mostly on the performance models, but there's a few, again, Signature Series or even early non-Signature Model X's that had the power rear spoiler there. Just a cool thing to see for sure. You can see the vertical touchscreen if you just peek inside. I don't know how well the camera will pick up on these things with reflections, but you know, of course, it was never meant to be an interior display vehicle. It just had some things in there. You can see all carpeted prototype dashboard if we look at it from the front here. It's and actually, this is crazy. It actually has a nose cone on it, which is very interesting to see from an early Model X prototype. Of course, so much changed from that to now. This is just a production early Model Y performance. Nothing really. I mean, it's an amazing car. It's one of the best electric vehicles on sale, maybe the best overall when you factor in price and performance and capability. But yeah, nothing crazy special here to show. But this still hasn't come out. I'm eagerly waiting and excited for it, of course. This is the Tesla Roadster 2.0. And it's supposed to just absolutely wipe the floor of everything. It's on Pilot Sport Cup 2s here. We were actually here the other day trying to see if it was on an OE spec Cup 2, which it's not. It's just on a you know, factory off the shelf Cup 2. Center locks, Willwood brakes on this thing, it looks like. This one's not a driver. They have driver prototypes out there. This one's not. And what's a bit of a shame about the Roadster is they kind of stopped talking about it. It's not going to be a huge volume model. I think $250,000 roughly when it does go on sale. And it's the one that I really want to see make it to production because it's just going to absolutely destroy everything. I mean, the performance figures of this might be similar to like a Rimac Nevera if they can get it right, and it's going to be a fourth of the price. yes, it's expensive, but it might really just set the benchmark for performance as we know it and price per dollar of performance. So I really hope Tesla can bring this to market at some point, shake up the hypercar, supercar world a little bit, and maybe make something where you don't have to spend a ton of money to get a ton of performance, because they're already doing that with Model S. You guys know I drive a Model S Plaid, and like price per dollar of performance on that is insane. So really cool. This, we get to some design bucks of the Tesla Semi. You can see some of the clay models early on, shaping, figuring out what the design would be. Of course, this is sort of more of a production representative cut out here, but just cool to see all the different takes that they had on what this thing would actually look like. And really cool of Tesla to show this to people coming to the Petersen. I mean, Tesla's a company that doesn't do much with communication, doesn't really tell their story very often. Honestly, they don't need to. They're outselling everyone. They're out engineering everyone from a software and hardware perspective, and they're outpricing everyone. So they are the kings right now, in my opinion. You know, and I always say this, you know, when I review a car, it's like, can it do what a base Model 3 can do? And like 99% of cars just can't. And so, you know, you always have to keep Tesla in the back of your mind. To me, they are just top. And they don't have to tell their story, but this is a great place for any Tesla enthusiast or even car enthusiast to come and see what is on the leading edge of everything. This is the Model X that, of course, transported some NASA astronauts to one of their space flights. Very cool to see this here, all the way up from Florida, of course. Model X long range at the time. These wheels are not on sale anymore, but this was a very interesting decision by Tesla. We don't need to spend too much time on it. I think it was like $2,000 for them to paint the inside of the wheel dark gray. Never made sense to me. We have a SpaceX display over here of the Starship, which SpaceX is one of the things I haven't totally gotten into. I try and watch the launches when they go. I know there was just a test flight of this, I believe, and it you know, was successful, at least that they learned a lot, but it ended up exploding. I'm not a space guy. I'd love to go to space one day. And, you know, I can only learn so much, and automotive is my world, but this is fascinating stuff. But I'm not a good reviewer of space technologies, if you will. But some other space topics to talk about here. We have some spacesuits actually designed by SpaceX. And, yep, basically NASA's space shuttle program ended sometime in the early 2000s, and SpaceX really picked up from there. And I guess these are the SpaceX designed suits, and they look cool. I hope they're functional. I assume they are. This is a replica of what Elon sent to space, which was his red Roadster at the time. And this one's a Roadster Sport. I'm not sure the VIN on this particular one. I'm sure it doesn't have a drivetrain in it, although it looks like the battery enclosure is still in here. But I assume they would have taken it out. And it's basically a full mock-up of what's rolling around in space right now. And if you take a look here, this is basically where it is. Starman's over here. This is end of this year, early next year. This is where he'll be. Just running around out in the middle of nowhere, floating away. And I mean, it's hilarious. I love that that was sent up to space. What a cool payload to do some testing with. Makes a great story. And yeah, I mean, Tesla's one of those companies that doesn't seem to, I would say up until this display, really almost value their heritage so much. But here it really seems great to see what's going on. If you take a look up this way, you'll see a full electrical architecture of Model 3. And it's not a full thing. There are missing some connections and wires and things, but you'll see your main high voltage connections running down the middle for your battery pack. You'll see different little things for blind spot monitoring to different modules and sensors. And of course, now with the talk of Cybertruck going low voltage DC, 48 volt perhaps for everything, that's going to be really cool. Just changing up the auto industry. Tesla's really trying to go vertically integrated and of course, design, spec, and build all their modules in-house, reduce the number of modules that need to be in a vehicle. And this is, even the Model 3 sets the benchmark for basically having 2 vehicle control modules, VC left and right. I believe there might be a center as well in your autopilot module, and those are the main modules in the vehicle. Of course, a lot of the ECUs are not listed here, but this is primarily the layout of pretty most of everything. This is, I guess, something for the Hyperloop. This thing ran 200 miles an hour inside their test Hyperloop. I believe it's in Hawthorne by the Design Center. You drive by it when you go through. This one, at least, is a replica, is what this is saying. But pretty cool. Don't know much about Hyperloop. Haven't seen much about it. We rode in the Boring Tunnel in Vegas many times whenever we're at the convention center, because we stay at Resorts World and we can just pop over to the convention center. But we drive like 30 miles an hour in a tunnel in a Model X or Model Y, and it's not that interesting, to be honest. but it is cool. This is probably what you guys want to see, Cyber Quad. So neat. We don't know many details if this will come to market, what it'll be, but I just love that they have the Cybertruck on display in full Carolina squat mode. They got the rear aired out, the front jacked up. It looks pretty hilarious like this for sure. And I believe this is the same vehicle. I was actually at the launch of Cybertruck years ago. And when they brought it out on stage and the window cracked, I was lucky enough to be there at that day. And I was with my friend Brian from I1 Tesla. He and I went together. And what a cool looking machine. I mean, look, at the end of the day, I'm not 100% sure that I like it. I'm also not 100% sure that I hate it. I can't wait to test it. I know it's just going to blow everyone out of the water with, in terms of content. This is going to be the YouTube machine to have. So maybe we should get one. But we're getting really close. Cybertruck is just weeks, months away. We're no longer years, I think. It's really going to be a thing. We're seeing some of the big presses arrive at the factory in Austin where they're going to build it. And I don't know. Leave a comment below what you think about the Cybertruck. Anytime we bring it up, it sparks massive controversy. It's not going to happen. It is going to happen. It's ugly. It looks cool. It's not going to have range. It's going to be the best. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens when they make it to production. Back to a little bit more reality here. We have Tesla's main focus, of course, on safety. And what Tesla's managed to do is take maybe the safety conversation in automotive almost away from Volvo and have it replaced with Tesla. When we think about the world's safest vehicles right now, regardless of the testing procedure, we're thinking Tesla, at least I am. And it's something that makes you feel good and reassuring as you drive the vehicles around, because at the end of the day, yes, we want to clean up our transportation. We need to make sure we're safe and secure on the roads, but preserving life is the most important thing when driving, and Tesla does that better than anyone. Just take a look at the impact that this particular car took. This was a test vehicle, not necessarily for a regulatory test. It might be regulatory representative of a front impact, but I believe both Tesla and Volvo crash a car every day, is my understanding. And I don't know if that figure is verified, but I know at least Volvo crashes a car every day. I believe Tesla crashes a car almost every day. And they have their own test center, their own test labs, and they're not just testing for crashes that the IIHS or Euro NCAP make you do. They're doing weird, crazy different tests that might happen because every car is connected. So whenever you have an accident, all that data is transmitted back to Tesla. They can get data on that accident and almost recreate it if it's a weird anomaly. It's such a cool situation what's going on when you can connect your vehicles with a whole bunch of sensors on the inside. The possibilities are endless, really. And we all know Tesla's mostly a software company, and here we're looking at all the hardware. Yeah, pretty amazing. If you take a look here, you'll actually see some of the drive units from over the years. So this is the plaid drive unit right here. This is what we have in our vehicle, carbon wrapped motors. I wonder if you can actually see, yes, if you come back over this way, you'll see some of the carbon wrapping here on the right motor. Of course, it's a dual motor unit in one enclosure, one gear reduction system, can handle extreme loads. This is very similar to what's actually going on inside the Tesla Semi. Over to the left, this is a Model S unit right here, or actually this one says it's in a Model X. Oh, and Model S. Yep, this is basically the non-performance motor that was in those vehicles. So we're used to seeing that for sure. And then over here is the early Model S motors. And this was such a cool, that was a front motor, by the way. This is the rear motor for Model S. A really cool design. You have your inverter on the right side. You have your rotor and stator on the left side. And what's amazing to think about is the size of this motor right here, just a few years later now, is this basically, and it produces 3 times the power almost. And the inverter's tiny. Look at how small the inverter is on this thing right here. Some of the best tech out there versus the original inverter was literally this big. So just iterative innovation happening, not just in one area of the company, just over and over and over. I mean, look, there's no question that I'm super into Tesla, but it's mostly because of this stuff. They're always pushing to improve and reduce costs and improve performance. It's pretty amazing. Let's continue on this way because we're getting close to the end. This talks about the machine that builds the machine. Of course, the factories are some of the most impressive things that Tesla have been able to spin up through Shanghai, now Austin. We've seen Berlin. all have been at record-setting pace, producing honestly very high-quality vehicles, which is really cool. This talks about some of the giga casting stuff that we can see, single massive casting, reducing part load, reducing labor time. And all of these are internal technologies that Tesla has created. This is actually a cutaway of a 4680 structural pack in a Model Y. If you just lift the camera up a little bit, you'll be able to see the cans in there. Unbelievable technology going on here. And Tesla is really the only automaker that has their own factory building design team in-house. No other automaker that I know of can go out on their own and basically create a production line. That's always done with partners. So pretty crazy stuff. Come on over here because there's one last thing to show you, which is a Model Y fully blown apart. By the way, the Cyber Rodeo sign from that big party in Texas is here. Glad they brought that. And here you just have a complete blowout of the Model Y. You can see the structural pack underneath, how the seats mount to it. The center console, of course, you can see your rear motor, rear casting up here. You can see front motor right over here. And it's just a wonderful display to see how everything is totally blown apart, how it's all laid out. Some parts are missing, of course, but they have their sway bar, the steering rack, control arms, at least lower A-arm things going on over here. Headlights on, love to see that. And it's just a cool looking display from here. So that is probably the most epic display of Tesla I've ever seen. A full cohesive story from original Roadster to, early Model S, all the way back to T0, to the Nürburgring car, to the Model 3 prototype that really caused so many people to order and place reservations for Model 3. There's some things about Elon in here as well, all the way to the charging division of the company, to their manufacturing abilities. It's just insane. So this is what I really wanted to show you, but there's a few more electric cars around that we'll get to. So let's run up the staircase and see what else we can find. And now guys, well, we saw the Battista downstairs. Now they have the Navara up here. Of course, similar chassis underneath. Rimac's really leading the way for electric technology, not just only in the hypercar space actually, but surprisingly in driver assistance and full stack software engineering. Of course, Porsche has a stake in Rimac, and a lot of it's actually for software tech. A lot of it's for hardware tech, of course. And this is just one of the most bleeding edge cars of our time. It's fairly understated. 150, I think, production run is what they're planning on. Mate just seems like one of the coolest guys ever. I've never spoken to him, but I would love to. At some point. I think it would be really fun to do some videos with one of these. And this is actually one of the prototypes. I believe this was used for some media drives and some other things while it was here in California. They left it here on display, but a fully electric quad motor, really hypercar, if you will. This is really setting benchmarks well under 2 seconds, 0 to 60. And there's also some other plug-in interesting things around here. Of course, you have a Chiron, we have an Elva, which is so great. I'd love to talk about these things. I do want to mention this Lamborghini Cyan over here though. Super rare car, probably one of the rarest cars here. And it actually uses a supercapacitor with a couple electric motors, storing energy, essentially a static energy in this, which is just amazing. You have a Zonda, one of my favorites, Koenigsegg 1-to-1 over here. There's a 918, which a fun story about the 918 from an electric standpoint. It's a plug-in hybrid supercar. This, the LaFerrari, and of course the P1 years ago, that was the holy trinity of cars. And this actually uses a Type 2 connection for the US. They didn't bother putting J1772 on this car, at least this is what my friends at Porsche tell me. And so the mobile connector for this, you can't just roll up to like a charge point anywhere. It uses a a Type 2 connection in here, which is just epic. And there I am with epic again, but I never realized that. So I asked Porsche if I could dig one up out of their collection, and they said yes. This is a Ferrari FXXK plug-in hybrid. I can only imagine how much this mobile connector costs from Ferrari. That's gotta be just insane. And then surprisingly, this purple thing over here is a fully electric vehicle as well. 4 motors, Hispano-Suiza, and to be honest, it's $1.5 million roughly. They're gonna build 5 of them. Can I trash it for a second, do you think? It is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. Who would spend money on this? I don't know. I think they got it so wrong, sadly. So this is a bit of a shame. That's just my impression. Purple carbon everywhere, but just doesn't do it for me or really anyone that I've shown this car to. And so I really think they need to go back to the drawing boards, go back to the old school days. And it was so funny. I was recently at Amelia Island Concours d'Elegance, and they were auctioning off an experience for this car somewhere in Italy or something like that. Take it for a drive, and it was like, starting bid, $5,000. And then silence. It's just like no one wanted to drive this thing. Yeah, because it's really ugly. Anyway, that's this Spanish Suiza. Let's see if we can find some other cars. Well, now you join me back out at the exit at the Petersen Museum. And this was just a very impromptu tour. You know, showed up, purchased our passes, took you on the same tour that you can go on if you're here in LA. I hope I was able to do some of it justice. I tried to rush through it because there were a lot of people around, but you know, I could spend hours talking about some of the incredible cars that are in here. I hope at least it was enlightening to you to see what electric vehicles are on display, how much Tesla has done to really enhance this experience. And really, it's a showcase for people who enjoy cars of all types. And that's what I love the most. If you're a Porsche enthusiast, there are Porsches everywhere. Surprisingly, not one Taycan in here though, so I would have liked to see some of that. But overall, just air-cooled stuff left and right. Absolutely beautiful vehicles, very rare cars, one-of-ones everywhere, all the way to Tesla semis, which are just crazy to see. So can't thank you enough for joining on this tour here of the Petersen Museum, every electric car that's inside. And of course, this is a museum that moves and it's ever-changing. So you might be able to come here next week and see cars that we didn't get in this video. And it's just the way it goes. It's always constantly ebbing and flowing of new vehicles arriving and leaving. So thanks for watching. See you in another one soon. Bye-bye.